Good night. Aisha Mahar here. Not that it matters so much what my shirt says. Small print shirts, some of them, you know. But I just think it might be interesting in the context of what this video is really about and why people who are still involved with or the exes with BPD come back. You know, I don't know if people realize how much they're hurting themselves until maybe a certain point in all of this. So anyway, the quote on the shirt, I took a picture so I could read it because, you know, anyway, it says, "You must live in the present. Launch yourself in every wave. Find your eternity in each moment." And that's Henry David Thoreau. But if you think about finding your eternity in each moment, every moment that you're with somebody with BPD, it takes you away from you. You lose more of yourself. You can't launch yourself into any wave of anything positive for you, which you deserve, in any moment that you're with somebody with BPD or recycling or wondering what the heck they did and why they did it. I'm out here to work with people who resonate with me if you want to finally get the you-know-what out of these relationships. Okay, with that said then, I can find the comment here. On a podcast that's up on the channel as well. What do borderlines need? Well, before I go any further, whatever it is they need, you can't give it to them, and they don't want it from you anyway. So remember that, because that's just a base foundational truth. Somebody has the patterns of BPD, somebody's been diagnosed with it, they're untreated, and even if they're sort of treated, kind of treated, in therapy, but you don't know what modality. No, borderlines, what do borderlines need? Way more than you can give, and they have nothing to give with all the needs that they do have. No personal responsibility, no accountability. They never take that. Any accountability or responsibility. Oh, that was awkward. So anyways, this podcast episode I did, what do borderlines need? 9 red flags, you can't help them, and why you will be punished for caring, punished for loving them. And I'm not saying that people don't actually fall in love with them, but then your loving them is hurting you immensely. But people with codependency don't kind of get that loving this person with BPD is hurting you immensely because you think they're hurting you immensely. Well, and that's happening. But it's like, but you're hurting yourself immensely at the same time. But most often unconsciously. So the commenter on this podcast thing, video, whatever you want to call it, said, "My ex came back for the 3rd time after over a year of us talking about getting back together. Each day in that year, this man would not have been able to have, one of those moments to ride the wave of an authenticity, in healing, in living your best life. You can't do that when you're in any way, shape, or form, whether it's in the beginning, whether it's a little bit past the beginning, the first evaluation split, the end of the honeymoon phase, which is the first evaluation split, and beyond, and then relationship recycling, and you want them back and you got to get them back, and all this is you reenacting something from your childhood very unconsciously, but being so focused on that borderline. What did he or she just do? What did they say that I just did? What? Wait. You externalize out your entire life onto them, and it's never going to work because they have an absolutely 100% untreated, totally negative lens. But so this person said, "My ex came back for the 3rd time after over a year of us talking about getting back together." Okay, so I'm just going to say this with empathy and compassion and no judgment, but why are people letting exes come back or talking to exes about coming back after the 1st time? So the 2nd time or the 3rd time or the 4th time, or I don't have enough fingers on both hands for some people how many times, and they're still recycling these relationships. But they're still trying to understand the borderline, and some people get to be semi-expert at it, just as an ex. Okay, good, but Is that your life's goal? Is that your life's dream? Is that the work that you always wanted to do? Like somehow I got into always wanting to do what it is I do here? I doubt it. So anyway, she stayed for 2 weeks. See, they talked for a year about it. It was try number 3, recycle number 3, and it lasted 2 weeks. I'll try to put the video under here. Catch my video about how the cycles speed up every single time that, you take them back or they take you back, or whichever way it's going, if it even matters. It's really emotional self-harm for people with codependency. But you're so wrapped up in this person. But again, I'm going to tell you why. It's really not that person. You're so wrapped up in that person because there's something that a wounded inner child in you unconsciously, you don't know this consciously, is all up in the dynamics with this person with BPD because of something that is where your wounded inner child still is in your past, wherever you got wounded to whatever degree, and how that all unfolded for you in your childhood. It's not all about the borderline. It never is. But that's how it really feels for people with codependency. So after a year of talking about getting back together for the third time, it only lasted 2 weeks. I mean, it's tragic and it's so painful. But ask yourself, just even in your head, right, that rational part of you, does that sound like it's worth it at all? And yeah, there'd be some people out there who'd say for one more physical intimacy, thing, yeah, I'd do that in a heartbeat. You're not thinking about yourself at all. You don't know what matters in life. You don't know how much you matter. And self-respect is key. And a lot of people with codependency don't have self-respect. You might have it for your job, your career, but you don't emotionally have it for your life. And so then the commenter continues, she sent me a text message while sitting next to her that said, So I'll try to remember to put my communication deficit video under here too, because these people with BPD have communication deficits, inability to take accountability and responsibility, inability to really talk about what the heck's going on with them because they don't know themselves and they really don't know what's going on with them. Not that excuses their behavior. This man is sitting there, on a couch or a chair or something, right beside her, and she texts him. How childish is that? I don't know. Okay. And I mean of the person that texted, not the man who was sitting beside her. So what she texted to him, sitting right beside him, was, quote, I think I should be alone, unquote. Toby, be quiet, please. The next day, she was gone. No other explanation, no apologies, very little response to any messages I sent her. He was unfriended on Facebook, left most of her and her children's things and just vanished. Well, and the interesting thing too is, commenter, and no judgment, but just pointing out something, that when she just vanished, I mean, obviously you're like, what happened now? Because you talked for a year to try to get back for the third time, but you see, you were so lost in that cycle, you weren't really thinking about yourself, looking after yourself. But as soon as she does that, you're trying to text her again. It's like people have to get off the hamster wheel to have a chance to break all these patterns, trauma bonds, etc., what's going on, and learn. Toby, shush, Buster. I can't get a break from a dog ever. So he said, I'm almost sure she's with another man because the previous 2 times she left, she went straight to another man. The first time it was her ex. The second time she disappeared for days, then stopped by one day to tell me she met a guy at a liquor store and she moved in with him and they were now in love. And he says, shake my head. Well, yeah. And the thing is too, Toby, quiet. Down, buddy. Down. I don't know. The thing is too that after she'd already left him twice for other men. Why do people want these people back? I mean, I know it's a trauma bond and people aren't consciously aware of what's really happening to them, like beyond the obvious with the borderline. But there's a lot going on inside from past woundedness. that's what codependency is an adaptation from childhood about. And so, yeah, the question is, it's not only a self-respect question, because there's other things going on. But why do people end up disrespecting themselves so much as to take somebody back 2 more times after they went and were with another man, in the case of men, or if it was a woman, and whatever, you know what I mean. So, get out of here, Dante. Don't knock into this. They're just like crazy. Where was I in the comment? Yeah, so she met some guy at a liquor store, and she moved in with him, and they were now in love. Well, that's not true, right? But this is how much they think about you. This is how much their love really means. 0. No ability to commit, no ability to attach, no ability to love you back. It's all about them. And not in the same way that narcissists are all about themselves, but similar at times, but it's all about them and what they need at any given moment. Whoever they feel is going to give that to them, they don't see other. They don't care about you. They really don't. It might seem like they're the love of your life and they're loving you so much and the sex is so great, but they really don't care about you. This is what people have to learn. So maybe if you can learn it the first time, you don't have to go around 3 or 5 or 10 or 20 times, or some people 30 plus times. And then the commenter said, my best advice is run. And of course, when people say run, you can't just run. You have to break off, break it up, tell that person, don't ever contact me again, block them everywhere, go no contact. Then you need to get into therapy, because there's no running. You can run, but where are you going to run to, and how far are you going to get away from what's happening inside of you that you're not aware of from the past, that's hooking you actually into a cluster B. Because it's not just the here and now of, wow, she's the best woman, best looking woman, or he's the best looking man I've ever seen, and all the other stuff. It's not just even all that at all. There's a whole subconscious emotional world of externalizing things out for the codependent that don't even have to do with the borderline du jour, okay, or of the moment, or of the certain amount of time you have the relationship with them. And then you chase them, you want them, you need them, you got to understand them, all to the exclusion of who are you, what's happening to you, and why don't you matter enough to you to start getting into a healing recovery journey to help you, or for you to be helped as well. And so yeah, the best advice is run. Well, yes, break it off with these people, stop the hoovering, block them, go no contact so they can't hoover you anymore either. And each time you allow them to come back, it's going to keep getting worse until they totally destroy you. Love yourself more than you love them. Well, yeah, each time they come back, it is going to get worse. Are they trying to destroy you? No, they're doing what it is they have to do for their survival, which we can't say that's okay at all, right? No, it's not. And then, but what are people with codependency doing? What are you doing? What have you been doing? Are you still doing it? Wanting that, second, third, fourth, 10th, 15th try at this, quote, relationship, unquote. For what? It doesn't work. So what is it that you're so chasing after? And a lot of people don't have the answer to that question until they work with somebody like myself, out here to work with you, if I resonate with you. And to the last part of the commenter, you can get destroyed by a person with BPD, but it's not only them. You have to, at some point, you become a volunteer, because you start Googling, you listen to videos, you start realizing it's BPD, but then you don't want to believe what you're finding because it's not what you want to hear. And so it's that personal accountability that codependents need to take also, because you need to care more about yourself. And then the commenters, the last last sentence of the comment, love yourself more than you love them. Yes, I understand exactly what the commenter is saying. I understand exactly what the commenter means. But you know what the problem with love yourself more than you love them is? The love that you're giving to them, or how you feel love for them, is unfortunately not healthy. It's codependent love, we could say. It's dysfunctional. It's all focused on the other person. It's you externalizing out a whole bunch of stuff that you're going to help this person so that you can feel good about you. And you learned this in childhood. And then you're going to hope also, you got all this false hope, a little bit of delusion and fantasy in there, that if you just give enough, they're going to give back. But no, they're not. Just like whatever wounded you in your childhood that created the codependency in you, this is what I help clients to figure out, find out, understand, and heal. Just like back in childhood somewhere, and it's not the exact same way that people get wounded, you were a child who couldn't believe that some need or more of your needs weren't being met by a parent or parents. And it's different for everybody, right? Because lots of people think they had a great childhood. But if you're going to love yourself more than you love the borderline, you first have to heal the codependency. You first have to break the trauma bond. You first have to figure out who you are now, because you will have lost more of yourself, how to get back to who you knew yourself to be. But even then, the work in healing codependency and from these relationships and trauma bonds is going back even further to figure out who you were and how you got hurt in childhood, so that we can really help you to work on who you actually really are. Never mind who you changed into or lost when you're with the borderline. It's putting all the pieces of you back together, and it goes back into childhood as well. So you won't even have success, right? Without therapy, to love yourself more than you love the borderline. Because unfortunately, people with codependency really don't want to hear this, but when you're loving a borderline, your love is dysfunctional. Your love is the externalization out of so much of what you need. And it's okay to have needs. But people with codependency do this, unconsciously. And you can't please them. You can't love them enough. That's not about you, because people with BPD can't take in love. People with BPD don't feel worthy of love. People with BPD don't understand love. They don't love you. They don't feel loved by you. They might say they do. They might partially for a time. But no, they really don't get it. And so it's usually because of how much they weren't loved and how much they were really hurt when they were young children. And it really makes a difference. It sets them off on the course to be diagnosed with BPD if they ever seek a diagnosis. And then what hurt you in your childhood, it sets you off on that codependent course. And then people overlap in that regard more often than not, because it's sort of like some similar woundedness, but not to the same extreme usually. And also, people with codependency, why do you end up with codependency, this adaptation to trauma or woundedness in childhood, where the borderline ends up with BPD? Well, rather than go through all that, which I've explained on this channel and lots of videos, you get wounded in a certain way. You have more of a resilient temperament. Maybe you don't experience anything as to the depth or as young in your life as what people who go on to have BPD do. But why isn't codependent personality disorder, not that I would advocate for that, but why isn't that in the DSM? Because when it was proposed to DSM-3 in the 1980s by a psychiatrist, the DSM, which if you don't know by now, I abhor the stupid thing, and it doesn't mean anything, and anybody that follows it's going to get more and more lost. Psychiatry, with the odd exception of that there are some good psychiatrists out there, especially that specialize in BPD, and they're well known, and their work is amazing. But as for the rest of that profession, no, it's all tied up in hegemony of big pharma. And it's kind of like if you look around the world today, especially what's going on, well, around the world actually, but a lot's happening in America with their election year. Canada's a mess, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say Canada's a better country. No, we're not even really a country anymore either. We're getting what every other Western country's getting. And it's, it's devolving. Everything's falling apart. And so what I was going to say is, in that world devolvement of who we can't trust anymore, largely government, Is there such a thing as real democracy left anymore in the West? I don't really think so, but my point is, so how can we trust? You got to find somebody you can trust to work with, right? But how can, like, I personally would never go to a psychiatrist. And when I was in therapy and early healing, recovery from my childhood, like when I was 17 to, 15 I started, but 15 to 30 in my life, yeah, I encountered a few psychiatrists in the beginning of that journey. And I learned really quickly to get the you-know-what away from them. Because they think they know everything, they think they got science behind them, and they don't. And they're giving us pseudoscience and flawed ideology, and they're saying this is that, and that's the other thing, and they're rewriting everything. It's very confusing. So, but why isn't codependent personality in the DSM? Well, because in their wisdom, I don't think they have any, the task force of DSM-3 said, well, no, we really can't. That was that DSM-3 is where they took in more disorders than ever, expanded the DSM more broadly at one time, with several of those things being acknowledged by others who researched this, that they made up some stuff and added it in there. I'm not saying everything they added in DSM-3 was made up, but some of it was. And it goes on today to be ruining people's lives with medication that just doesn't help your brain at all. And you don't probably even really need it. But the point is, so the DSM-3 task force said, no, codependent personality disorder, this is me paraphrasing, right, would be like a redundancy. It wouldn't stand on its own as a category because it overlaps too much with borderline personality disorder and from cluster C, dependent personality disorder. And for some people, there are those overlaps. For sure, and for other people, it's a one trait or one sort of definition defining factor of codependency is enough to ruin your life. So you don't have to have severe codependency. You don't have to have like every trait. If you look on the front of my YouTube channel, there's playlists, that button wherever it is. If you click on that, you'll see Surviving BPD Breakup podcast that I do. You'll see my Codependency podcast, which has some videos in it from the channel, but also only 8 episodes, because I'm going to get back into that podcast and explain a lot more. But the bottom line is the first 7 episodes of that podcast are all in defining in many different and deeper ways what codependency really is. And so, because I think there's a lot of people out there now that are really not understanding what codependency is. They're really, of course, there are a lot of people that do, but I've seen some things recently that are very troubling, and including, if you want to get your research and information on Quora, why would you want to do that? But anyway, people do. I've seen somebody over there that writes a lot and whatever, and talk about being plagiarized. Like, I'm being very plagiarized over there, which is kind of annoying, but what can you do? Maybe I'll not plagiarize back, but I'll borrow back what I said in the first place, right? Oh, point is, I just saw somebody who's always talking about people with BPD with just grievous errors all through the information. And now they just totally did this number on people with codependency. Oh, I can't even, as if they work with people. Who are they? I don't know what their qualifications are. But I can't even work with codependents anymore because they're just this, they're just that, they're that, they're that. So just like totally now vilifying people with codependency, as everybody seems to think it's okay to vilify people with BPD or NPD. And I'm not saying, however you feel about the people with BPD or NPD is up to you. But just remember, if you're hating them and vilifying them, etc., you're blocking your own way forward to heal. So the thing that people really need to do, and it's too late for lots of people, you've recycled many times, you're in this, your trauma bond has unraveled in a way, unfolded in a way to where you're super stuck. And I'm out here to work with you and help you if you resonate with me. But the thing is, the goal really should be, and it's not that easy, right? That once you get discarded once or ghosted or the big push pulls, the big push, that's really the time to go, I had enough, it's over. But that's not what people with codependency do. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And you just think, well, I can fix this, we can change this, because you're externalizing everything out. You're really not caring enough or focusing enough on yourself. And codependency, as I've said before, is a dysfunctional relationship to and with self. Borderlines don't cause that, but they certainly will make you hurt a whole lot more. And it's your responsibility to get out of there so that you can get help to help yourself to be able to heal and move forward in your life so that you can grasp every wave of every moment, because you're not going to experience a single moment with the borderline. You're really not, because it won't involve you and them. It'll be all about them. So no contact is imperative. And the sooner you do it, the better. And if you need help with that, again, there's other people too, but if you resonate with me, out here to help you. The recycling of these relationships is not only that the person with BPD will hurt you more, yes, but you hear, you Google, you listen to videos, and it's BPD. And at that point, you have responsibility that now you're volunteering for what you're still going through. You didn't know in the beginning, but as soon as you do know, and this is the complexity of codependency, as soon as you think you leave, right? But no, the trauma bond and the dynamics and your externalization out and what all this means and false hope and what are you repeating from some woundedness in childhood and what the heck is the borderline doing and it doesn't make sense and we can't sanction it. This is what people with codependency have to grab a hold of much quicker and get into help, because otherwise people do recycle 10, 15, 20, 30 plus times and you just abjectly lose yourself. And a lot of people with codependency don't want to even live anymore at the quote sort of end of finally getting, the borderline's gone. They discarded the heck out of you now. Now what are you going to do? Well, a lot of people right then and there, they turn to medications, which don't help, or they turn to too much drinking, or they just don't know what to do with themselves and they don't want to be here. And you don't want to get there. I mean, it's just even more painful, and you will have fallen even deeper into a rabbit hole that really makes recovery still possible, but it really isn't simple, and it will be painful. But there's nothing more painful than continuing to believe in the fantasy of that this borderline is anybody that you fell in love with, because they don't know who they are, and you're never going to know who they are either. Now, depending where you're at, you may not know who you are anymore, and that's much more important than who they ever were. Take care.